Firstly, are you any clearer on Sean Longstaff's injury and whether he'll play again this season?
I think we're quite clear on the injury. It's just how long it takes to heal. He made good progress yesterday, so let's see how he feels today. He won't be involved in this game.
Any new problems that you're concerned about injury-wise?
Not that I know of at the minute, Razor.
Okay. Brighton then on Thursday night, you'll be aware that the teams below you, Liverpool and Manchester United, won their last matches, so it's really tight at the moment. How big a game is this for you?
Yes, it's a huge game. I think it's one we're looking forward to. I think it's going to be a really, really good game between two excellent teams. Got a lot of respect for Brighton and what they've done this season and how they play, and watching them against Arsenal in their last match, I was hugely impressed. So I think it's going to be a really tough assignment for us, but one at home that we're not fearful of. We're going to take a big step forward, hopefully.
You can't secure the top four on Thursday. It will depend on other results, yours and the other teams, but you have the opportunity over the next week with these two home matches to potentially do it in front of your own fans at St James's Park, and maybe if you could have chosen a way to do it, that would be the one to do it at home.
Just to do it, Razor, ideally yes, at home, but I think we're not looking too far ahead. I think, as I've said all season, it's small steps. It's the next game. It's trying to get 3 points against a really tough opponent. That's all we can do at this moment in time. We can't look beyond. We can't look at other teams' fixtures. We can't look at external factors. We just have to look very much internally, and we have to bring our A game, because this is going to be, as I said, a really tactical game. I think it's going to be a really intriguing battle, and hopefully we can show our best.
It's a long way back to August in the second match of the season when you last played them. You got what was probably a really good point that day. Nick Pope was excellent, but Brighton did cause you a lot of problems. Probably one of your toughest matches of the season. Yeah,
I'd agree with that. I think it was a baking hot day. I mean, it was really tough conditions, actually. It was so hot. And we were indebted to Nick. He made some good saves. I remember Matoma coming on and doing really well at that stage of the game when it was quite open, but we weren't at our best that day, and a tough game, as you say, probably one of our toughest, and I think that will be equally the same in this game. So we're ready for it.
Last one on Brighton. How have they changed tactically, do you think, since the change of manager and De Zerbi has come in and arguably taking it on and taking them further? Yeah,
I think that they tend to be a little bit more rigid in their shape. No, rigid is the wrong word, but they play the same shape with a couple of rotations and different things going on, but they're very, very good at what they do. So they try and play through you centrally, really good bodies in the middle of the pitch, and very, very good technically. So Roberto's done an incredible job. I'm full of praise for how he set the team up and the style of football that he wants to play. And so full of praise for everyone at Brighton this year.
Final thing, I want to ask you about a player who's probably become, not by you, but generally a bit of a forgotten man in Jamal Lewis. He was back on the bench recently. He was a substitute in your last match, but he's only played 3 times this season. What is the situation for Lewis, and what does the future hold?
Well, the future is a little bit unclear for him. He's a very much a valued part of our squad at the moment. Very aware that I've not been able to give him the football that he wants this season. I would say his game's developed behind the scenes. The work that he's put in behind the scenes every day to improve himself with the coaches here has been brilliant to see. And as I say, his game's in a really good place at the moment. I just haven't been able to give him the opportunities to show that. But he's someone that we value, believe in. But as of I sit here now, I don't know what the future will hold for him next year.
He's clearly been a bit unlucky with injuries and form of other players, and timing is so important, isn't it? Because after you arrived, he was playing quite regularly, then he got an injury, and 6 weeks later, Dan Burn and Matt Targett arrived.
Yeah, it's amazing how fate shows its hand, really. So I think he played at Liverpool. He played, I think, a couple of the previous games, if I remember right, and was in a good vein of form and helped us, again, if I remember rightly, to our first win against Burnley. And then he pulled that hamstring, and it meant we were really light in that position. So we recruited Matt, as you say, who did really well and now Dan stepped up this year, and so there's real competition for places in that area, which has been great for me personally, but obviously more difficult for Jamal to deal with. But I have to say he's acted it impeccably.
Thank you.
Nick? Eddie, just thinking about the success you've had previously, thinking about the promotion runs with Bournemouth, and obviously getting to the League Cup final this season. Any special techniques or on management qualities that you've thought about yourself in terms of managing expectations, calming players' nerves because of the fact that you're so close to the winning line right now? Just 2 wins from your final 3 games. Will you be doing anything differently?
I think one of the things that I've always used in times of, it's not really pressure for me because I always feel I'm under that pressure, but maybe for the players, is to make things very simple and clear and to not overcomplicate things. So I think that's really important in this moment as we go to the final 3 games, that you don't radically try something different, because I think that can be a big mistake, and you don't overreact to minor things that at that moment can seem major things. So it's to be very calm, stick to my real belief and confidence within the squad, and I have to show that, and I've got that internally, and hopefully that will be enough.
I think just rewinding back to last Saturday, I'm sure you said you didn't feel the players were quick enough out of the traps, or that it wasn't a quick enough start made at Ellen Road. How important will that be on Thursday against Brighton?
Yeah, I actually thought we started the game really well until we conceded, which sounds bizarre because we conceded, I think, after 6 minutes, but yeah, we were actually on the front foot and in their half, and it was the first time they entered our box we conceded. But I think starting the game, especially at home, is absolutely crucial, that we try and involve the crowd, that we try and show the crowd that we're in the game to perform, and we're in the game to show everyone how committed we are to success for the club. So I think that's really vital.
Cheers.
Morning, Eddie. Just on Saturday and on the security front, I know you covered this post-match, but once the adrenaline died down after that incident, how did you feel, and how concerning is it on reflection?
I think that the concern for me is the future. So that incident's gone, it's done as far as I'm concerned, but the only part of me that, or part of that incident that's left, is the what-ifs for the future, and I just hope that incident itself can then help the authorities and whoever's concerned with security and safety of the players and staff, that if it does make a little change or someone to think how we can improve things, then it would have been a really worthwhile episode, because I'd hate to see a tragedy on a football pitch that could have been avoided.
On the football side of things, you've had a lot of big weeks so far at Newcastle United. Is this arguably the biggest week in your time here?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, it's difficult to bracket it. I think I'm well aware of the importance of every game now. We're running out of games. We've got 3 games left. There's huge competition for the top 4. I'm aware of that, and I always deep down thought there would be, because of the quality of teams we're playing against and competing against, and also the size of the achievement. With that comes, it's never going to be easy. So we're prepared for that as staff. I think the players are prepared for that. This is going to be the hardest bit. We're going to need everyone to pull together to try and achieve it.
I know a phrase that I know you're into your slogans as well. Trips has used it constantly. Pressure is a privilege, he always says, doesn't it? Is that the sort of approach that you want your players to be taking into these final 3 huge games?
I think when you're playing the important games, that's what we're in it for. I know it's again a bit of a cliche, but it is. It's what when we played football as kids, the cup finals are the ones you wanted to play in. And every big experience that I've had as a player and as a manager is the day before, the night before, your senses are heightened and you're thinking, this is what I've trained for, this is what I want. And I definitely want that mentality. It's got to be one of enjoyment. It's got to be one of, I can't wait for the game to start. I can't wait to show how good I am. Not me personally, but the players. I want that emotion to run through, and they need to play relaxed. That is a big thing, and that's what we've tried to do this week, is to try and take any pressure off and enjoy our football, and hopefully that will show in the game.
I know we're speaking in hypotheticals at the moment because it's not decided, but should Newcastle United make Champions League, what difference does that make to Newcastle as a club, as a project, but as a city as well, would you say?
You're not going to get me there. You're not going to get me there. Those questions can wait.
That's right. Just on Brighton, you're going to be obviously doing your team talk beforehand. Is this the sort of game where you don't really need to say anything to the players or not?
There's certain games I agree that you don't necessarily need to try and motivate the players. The players are motivated enough by what's ahead of them, but I always feel there's a message that you need to convey to them, and whether that's a tactical message or a psychological message. That there's always messages I feel you can get to the players that can help them. That's probably the approach I'll take for this game.
And just very finally, I know you've spoken about the atmosphere numerous times this season at St James Park. I think it was last week you said you kind of walk out the tunnel and you look right, you look left and see what the crowd are doing. What are you hoping to see at St James's Park tomorrow?
I'm not hoping. I think I know what we'll get. We'll get a totally united crowd. We'll get under lights an incredible atmosphere. We'll get, I'm sure, an incredible feeling when we enter the pitch. The hard bit is then to sustain that from our side to make sure the crowd are engaged the whole game. But I've backed the players to do it. We've done it all season, and that's going to be done on sheer effort and determination and the will to win.
Thanks, Eddie.
Chris. Hi, Eddie. I know when you approached the cup final, a few months ago, you felt that it had kind of been hanging around. The build-up to it was too much. This race for the top four has been hanging around for a lot longer than that. Do you take any learnings from that experience, so that the players don't get carried away, they don't get sort of overexcited about what's to come?
I don't feel the players are in that moment. I think when you're in the middle of a long league campaign, you sort of accept that's there. The difficulty with the cup final, it was an added focus together with the league, and I think that took away our focus from the league for a period of time. But we just have one objective, and that's what we're focused on now. So the players have been very calm. I haven't seen anyone over emotional or overreactive in any situation. So I'm confident that we'll handle the occasion mentally.
And just with obviously what's to come in mind, so close to potential Champions League qualification, if you were to miss out, would it feel like a failure?
I think, like a similar question earlier, I think that's a question for afterwards. I can't take myself there at this moment in time, focusing on the next game when we try and win it.
Thank you.
Danny, somebody had said back in August that winning your last 2 home games would get you a top 4 finish. You'd have taken it.
I think snatch your arm off was the phrase that I used. I don't know whether that's the right one, but yeah, we weren't there. We were at the start of the season, when you take yourself back, and I think I sat in this room and I said it was about making sure we weren't fighting relegation. It was making sure we'd evolved and improved the team enough to be stable in the Premier League, and then we're looking to grow the team maybe the following seasons. Well, we've certainly surpassed that, and I think now we're in a position where we have 3 games, and as you say, to take that position at the start of the season where it's in your control, and that means everything at this moment in time. Then the hard bit is, of course, to get over the line and win the games, but that's what we're trying to do.
Given where you were in August, do you sometimes pinch yourself when you think of what's happened in between?
I don't have time. Don't have time to pinch myself. It's very much a case of just every day you're getting on the treadmill, not literally, but you're getting on the treadmill of work to try and win the next game, and that's not stopped all season.
Luke, are you able to enjoy this journey, how far you've come, following on from Damien's question?
I certainly tried to. I think I've always say, when you're day to day actively involved in it, it's a very difficult thing to turn around and go, I love today. It's not that kind of experience, but it is definitely that experience afterwards when you reflect. So I'm sure when I reflect back on this season, I'll go, wow, that was incredible. You go back through some of the highlights, some of the emotions that I've experienced, and you'll go, it was an incredible ride. When you're in it and you're thinking of tomorrow and the future, it's very difficult to sit back in that moment.
It's very hard for everybody, media fans, supporters, players, coaching staff, to add context to where you are. But I think this time last year you'd only just avoided relegation. I think you just stayed up. That is important to remember in the wider scheme of things, of how far you've come in such a short period of time.
Yeah, it's very easy to forget, even for me. Certainly for the players, because players notoriously move on very quickly from different experiences, and then they're in a different mindset totally. So sometimes to just for a split second to go, yeah, we've done okay. You know, we're on the right lines, and that's more important to do that in a moment of a disappointment and a setback, to just recollaborate where you are and then refocus on the future. And I think we've done that really well this season, where we've just had a little blip or a moment and then gone again. And I think that's probably what we've got to do now. We've got to use all the positive energy that we've created this season, and the fact that really there should be no pressure on us because we've come from nowhere, and try and attack the games we have in front of us.
And you want the sport to enjoy it. I mean, they've got 2 home games left this season. You want them to enjoy the experience of being the fan at St James's Park.
Yeah, but I don't think I have to say that. I think that just from the experience I've had and the expressions I see on faces, and yeah, I think the supporters have loved this year. Of course, I want them to enjoy the last 2 games. The only way we can do that is to give our best.
Thank you. Lee?
I think I was just thinking the other day, like, going back to when you were at Bournemouth and you and Jason Tyndall probably sitting there chewing things over in your office. Would you have ever imagined you'd be challenging for Champions League?
No, I don't think those conversations ever came up.
Not part of the mass.
That wasn't part of our conversations. No, I mean, I think we always hoped. I think you always dream in those moments when you're starting out of what the future may look like and how far can you go. But there was never talk of that, but I think that's a good thing, because our feet were always firmly on the floor and very much as it is now, in the moment of where you are and trying to do the best job you can at that moment. But it's certainly, again, it's nice to reflect back and to look back and see how far we've come. But it never stops you wanting more. So wherever your target is at that moment, you refocus very quickly. And then, so I'm not satisfied with what we're doing now. I want more, and that'll always be the case, hopefully.
And people keep going on about what a pressure situation this is, tough at the top, but it must be tougher at the bottom, League 2, when you've got players not getting paid wages and things like that.
Yeah, I thought that the first season I had in management was the best grounding I ever had for management. And I sort of knew it at the time. You're dealing with bailiffs coming in and players not getting paid, knocking on your door saying, I can't pay my mortgage, and us ourselves buying equipment for the club because we wanted to do the best job we could. And it was almost, yeah, I knew it at the time. I was like, wow, I've sort of had 6 months in management, but it feels like 10 years. I've experienced things that maybe some managers would never experience. And I was very grateful for that. Obviously grateful for the fact that we were successful as well, and it enabled us to launch our career, really. But great grounding. It's meant we've never taken anything for granted or got ahead of ourselves. And we're just very grateful for the situation we're in now.
Just finally on Bruno and Joe Linton did a really good shift at Leeds. You're going to need them because you've got injuries in the midfield. How pleased were you with their sort of statistics after the game, because they were quite impressive?
Yeah, I think Joe, they're very different players, but Joe Linton has just been incredible physically this year. What he gives every game, again, it's never taken for granted by me and the coaching staff and certainly his teammates. He's a player that just gives his all in every match. Bruno physically, I think, has been really good. He's had a couple of ankle problems, but he seems to have got back to his very best in terms of his physical outputs. I thought the pair of them dovetailed really well, so we changed system a couple of times. They ended up playing together, and I thought they were really strong.
John?
Is Jacob Murphy or he's got an injury for the start tomorrow?
Jacob, sorry Razor, yeah, I did forget. Murphs is probably the one doubt we have for the game.
Got you on that one.
You certainly did. Razor, I'll re-record that for you after.
I'm not sure if you're aware, but the referee tomorrow is Robert Jones. He's based in Merseyside and is part of the Wirral FA. Do you see that as a fair appointment, given you are in a close battle with Liverpool?
Jordan FA rules prevent us from discussing match officials in any way before
Okay.
match. So no more.
Okay.
Works.
No more question. Cheers.
Thank you.
Jason.
Just reflecting on the incident at Ellen Road again, Eddie, as a member of the LMA, have they been in touch with you at all, just offer support, or check how you are afterwards?
Yeah, I had a couple of nice messages from Richard Bevan at the LMA. So yeah, they're very, very good in, and different situations, successful, unsuccessful, and loads of different moments. So yeah, very thankful for that support.
What form does that take? Just basically, how are you, kind of thing?
Yeah. But as I said, I'm absolutely fine, and more thinking really of future episodes like that, trying to prevent them.
Thank you.
Miles?
Obviously, noticed out. Aaron started at the weekend. How pleased were you with his contribution, having his first start for quite some time?
With Miggy,
Yeah.
yeah, very pleased. I think great to have him back. Been a huge player for us this year. Of course, in front of goal, he's been very good. As I always say with Miggy, he's an incredible athlete for us off the ball as well. So I was delighted to get him back in the team.
Now, I was Matty Longstaff, who obviously is outside the squad, that a player you said you'd support and help through his injury. Just give us an update on where he is.
Yeah, Matty's here. I think he's just had another operation on his knee, just a very minor one, to fix a problem. So we're hopeful that he's on the road to recovery. It's funny. I saw him on a bike the other day, on an assault bike it's called, and anyone who's done them know how tough they are. And he's there just using his arms and giving his all for about half an hour, and an incredible example of sort of his attitude to his recovery. So he's giving everything he can to get back.
Just quickly, Harrison Ashby, obviously, is this season going to come too soon for him in terms of seeing him having any kind of first team involvement?
Well, never say never. He's part of our squad. He's training with us every day. He's certainly made improvements since he's joined us. I think he had a couple of hamstring injuries initially, which set him back. But yeah, he's training. He's doing well, and he's certainly a player we believe in for the future.
Don?
Obviously, the difference on the pitch is clear already, but off the pitch, in terms of the feel around the club, the changes you've made behind the scenes here, how different does it feel now to when you came in?
Yeah, it's funny, a bit like when you do your own house up, sometimes you don't notice the changes you've made, and then someone who hasn't visited your house will come in and go, wow, this is incredible, what improvements you've made. And it's very much like that at the moment with us. So we've become accustomed to our environment now and enjoy being here, working here, and feel like we're building the training ground to much more in tune with where it needs to be. So a couple of players have come back after not being here for a while and have been blown away by the change. So I think we're getting there. I still feel we've got a lot more to do, but that's for another day.
And what do you need to do?
Well, I just think that there's certain things that we need that we currently don't have, which will elevate us in terms of recovery and making sure the players after games can make sure they're right for the next one as quickly as possible.
And not just the training ground, but maybe additions to recruitment teams, scouting, that sort of thing this year. Is that all about making sure the club is geared for the next step, whether it's Europa League, whether it's Champions League?
Absolutely. I think you need a team of staff, whichever department that's in. They need to be elite, if possible, when they need to be the best people with Newcastle in their hearts, and they need to have a really good work ethic to try and take the club to the next level. It's never going to be one man. It's not just about me taking the club forward. It's about a group of people, and we all need to have the same mindsets and really push each other to help the club.
Mark?
And you played Alex and Callum together for a couple of games now. How do you think that's going? Callum's obviously scored his goals, but the team maybe the first game didn't score the goals, but do you think it's going well?
Well, we're not playing them together. They're in the same team, but they're not a strike partnership as such. Although, in saying that, at Leeds they were for a period of time as we changed it. It's funny because the Arsenal game was sort of like that, so close to scoring, not just once but 4 or 5 times. So I don't think the Arsenal game there's anything wrong with the structure of the team or the personnel within the team. Leeds, I don't think we were as good actually in our performance, but scored 2 goals from penalties. So certainly there's a bit of work from that game.
Do you think that's the message maybe in terms of any fans that are nervous and have looked at the last 2 games, not one, have actually been playing well? It's not like the team sort of dropped off a cliff. You've been playing well, just haven't got the result.
Yeah, and that's always the way. You look through our season this year. There have been games where we've deserved more. There's been games where maybe we've got away and haven't performed as well, but as one, and that's the natural evolution of a season. I'd say the last 2 games have been okay. The Arsenal game especially, I thought was a good performance. But yeah, in terms of a message to the supporters, we will give our all to try and be successful. And yeah, I hope it's enough.
Martin?
Hi Eddie. How important is it to have that top 4 finish in your hands on home soil?
Yeah, it's the preference, of course. Home soil, we love playing here. To have it in our control is great, but with that responsibility, we don't take that lightly. So we know that it's great having it, but then we have to use it, which is easier said than done. We're up against good opponents, but that's the situation that we'd have craved at the start of the season.
And there's obviously lots of ifs and buts in terms of who Manchester United play and who Liverpool play. But if it has to go to the last game at Chelsea, is there a message to the supporters to kind of stay calm and stay with them?
Whichever way it goes, we have to adapt. So if that is what is meant to be, we'll fight till the very last ball. That's the only message I can give. I can never predict. I don't have a crystal ball. I just want my players to give everything in their pursuit of success, and that's in every game that we've had this season, and probably bar one, I think we've had that. So very proud of the group. We need a final push.
And what will the last message be to the players before they go out and play tonight?
I haven't thought of that yet.
Okay, any more? Kieran?
In Jurgen Klopp this week, you said you would prefer Liverpool are not chasing you down, rather than feeling like you're being hunted. Do you have to relish being up there with those kind of teams?
Yeah, I don't feel we're being hunted. I don't feel that emotion. It's us against ourselves, really. That's how I see it. It's us trying to be the best we can be, rather than I've not focused on any other team all season. In my experience, I knew Liverpool were never far away because they're a top team and they're capable of going on runs of wins very similar to Manchester City, where they can win a group of games without blinking. They've got that experience, and I think for us we can't look at Liverpool, compare ourselves to Liverpool. We just have to look at us.
You talked about how getting over the line is the hardest bit. Could you maybe elaborate on that? Have you done anything on the mental side with the players?
I think whenever when you want something really badly, which I'm sure everyone connected with the club does, the hardest bit is to actually finally get there. I don't quite know what I can't give you any more than that on it, really. There's no science behind it. It's just, I think for anything in life, when you want something, and it's a big achievement, it's not easy to do.